5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
And it's live.
This is Leicester Till I Die TV. Watch and subscribe on YouTube and listen on your podcast platform.
Hello! Oh, hang on, let me just pop a Viagra. There we go. Works every time. Good afternoon or good evening, good morning, good night, good day, goodbye, hello. Just for Tom, that. Just for Tom. Wherever you are in the world, one of those will apply to you. Welcome to Sloppy Seconds. And that's not just Dave, because Dave's with us. He is of a certain age where, you start out needing a bib when you're growing and you end up needing a bib as well. But it is Sloppy Seconds because we've just done this. And if you didn't see it, check out, yes, indeed, check out LTID TV YouTube page, which I'm sure most of you know about. We've just done that show, Monga to Leave Leicester. Not going to talk about that. If you want to know anything about that, go and watch the show. It's still in the upcoming and recent show list on the channel. But look, the season started. Do you remember? Let me take you back. Come, take a seat. Take a seat. Let me take you back in time. Do you remember? Maybe only 5 weeks ago, if that. We appointed Masrtic Cifuentes, and everybody was going, oh God, we're going to have a fantastic season now. We're going to walk this championship thing, and I know we might have a points deduction, but we're Leicester, and we're still going to manage to finish in the top two in this division. When we're looking at the predictions for, the first game against, let's be honest, the Sheffield Wednesday, who were on their knees, probably giving Leicester a blowjob. Well, we got well and truly suckered off, didn't we? Clebo predicted 4-0. Craig, who's joining us this evening, predicted 4-1. Doug, 5-0. Jeff, 4-0. Jack, from the final whistle, 5-0. Mark, 4-0. Michael, 4-0. Reese, 6-0. Shane, 4-0. Shane O'Donnell, 6-0. 4-0 5, Tom, who's with us, and 4-0 from Tom, and 5-0 from Wayne. Yeah, it was going to be a walkover, wasn't it? A piece of piss. Sheffield Wednesday, they've got no manager. Half the team have walked out. Leicester going to piss this over. No, we went 1-0 down. Yes, the second half was better, but we were literally humiliated by the team. Like I say, that hasn't probably got enough players, to put a team and subs out even. Humiliated. Then we went to Huddersfield, who, last season they were a championship club, but they got relegated. Wayne's just commented, deluded idiot fans. Yes, Mr. 5-0. We went to Huddersfield. We should have walked Huddersfield. Everybody was saying, it's a cup game. We're easily going to do this. Well, I tell you what, Joey Barton must have been shitting himself watching those penalties. He probably thought that the women's England team had gone up to date. I mean, what awful penalties. Awful penalties. And then, of course, we played Preston. And I've just had a comment, actually, on the YouTube channel. And I'm guessing this is from a Preston fan. He put, the prima donnas that thought they only had to turn up at Preston got schooled Preston totally deserved their win. Could be a Leicester player, a Leicester fan, whoever. It's spot on. We turned up and we got schooled by a team that has been in this division for I don't know how many years, starts off well and always fades away. They put us to the sword. And if it wasn't for a 16-year-old that might be on his way to Spain, we'd have lost. And we deserve to lose by even more. So, how are we all feeling now? 4-0, 5-0 against Charlton. Top 2 still. I do wonder, This is Fox's Forum. And I've got to ask the question, is the honeymoon over? Let's ask our special guests and let's get them in. Good evening, gentlemen.
Good evening. How you doing?
Tashant's just put in the chat, do you think we've all gone being overconfident? I bloody well think we have. Dave, I mean, this is just typical of Leicester. I mean, we went out, like I said, look, in the beginning, I don't need to repeat it, 4, 5, 6-0, we're going to beat a team that was on its knees and nearly put us to the sword. We couldn't beat a League One outfit even on penalties. We got schooled by, a team that's never got out of the second tier. It's embarrassing, isn't it? For all those fans that were mouthing it off at the start.
Well, for them, yeah. Personally, I wasn't surprised. I mean, we're a brand new team. We've lost a few players, but we've got some very bad players still. What did we expect, really? I mean, Wednesday were going to come at us because what else they got to lose? Preston, okay, it was awful, wasn't it? Certainly the first, well, it was just awful.
Yeah.
I'm not surprised. We can't defend. So what we expect, we're going to concede. You've got to build from the back.
Yeah, you do. You got to build, haven't you? Really,
well, be nice.
Tom Ray said we need to get through the transfer window. We need certainty on the points deduction. Then Cifuentes can get things going forward. Ray, look, love you to bits, mate, but no, it doesn't matter on the points deduction. It doesn't matter on who's coming in, who's going out. Cifuentes said that this team's good enough to I don't necessarily need players to come in, but. To me, it's typical post-15-16 fans thinking that we are going to walk this division. I said I would be happy with 7th or 8th this season. I'm just wondering, I know it's only 3 games, but I'm just wondering whether we're even going to get that. We're sat in 12th at the moment.
Well, it's funny, Chris, isn't it? Because football is generally decided on the pitch, but I kind of feel for Leicester right now. We're in a very bizarre position. We're kind of in a position where we need to get a Nigel Pearson in to kind of give us a muck out like we had back in those days in order to completely reset the things beyond the pitch in order to have a more successful, longer-term future. So, I mean, I think Marty is the man for the job. I think the things he is dealing with, I've used this quote before about how he's trying to be a Michelin star chef with Aldi ingredients, right? And I think that is the problem we are facing right now, and it's trying to. Yeah, I know, mate. Literally, I was there yesterday, but I find that is the biggest challenge we face. I think as a case of, I think Marty is hitting his head against a brick wall with some of the individuals in the football club. And I said last watch along, we need to come to Jesus individual one-on-one meeting, not in an aggressive way, but in a way of if this player doesn't want to play for the football club. Let's facilitate a move. Let's get on with it. Let's not leave it to the 31st of the month and make sure that in the last minute we get screwed over. Let's actively work with these agents we don't like very much, but we have to do it. Let's actively work with these players. And in certain positions, we have got some young academy players we can bring in who have shown already a lot of promise, like when Monga did against Preston and came on and scored a goal. So we might have to sacrifice a bit short term to get better long term right now, because I'm worried if we try and hold on to the what we've done so far, we could end up in a Luton position in a worst case scenario if it all falls off. So I think we kind of need to have that divorce now rather than holding on too long.
Craig, the gentleman who, when I offered to do these shows at 8 o'clock, said, no, I prefer 7, and then he very rarely gets in here on time. Hello, Craig, how are you doing, sir?
Hi, Chris.
You knew you were going to get called out for that, didn't you?
I'm here. You know, sometimes things just come upon you.
They do.
Like
do.
Clocks, watches, them kind of things. You know.
No, I do. No, I jest. You know I do. It's lovely to have you here.
To be honest, I knew you were in safe hands even without me. So, you know.
But Kate's not here.
Craig, you're our Riyad Mahrez, mate. You're always late to training, but you're the best fucking skillful person on this channel half the time.
Thanks, Tom.
Here we go. Dave, you and me, we'll just go off. We'll leave these two in the room.
What am I doing here? That's all I can say.
You're above Craig. Tom, Craig, I mean, let him go through all the names here. Craig, look, I'm going to ask you that question. Is the honeymoon over before before we've even got started?
Don't be silly. We've had 3 games, 2 league games. You know, it's you know, until we're. I put this on a comment on Facebook when I try and not comment on anything because usually the people on there are just sort of mental, and I do worry for a lot of them. To be honest, I don't think the majority of them have got a life outside either football or just putting anything to get a comment.
You know, we are followed by psychics because, you know, one person I put a thing up about the Monga show and they put the thing up not going anywhere. Now, obviously, you know, that was before the show had even gone live. Well, so they could channel into what was going on. And, you know.
I mean, I think we can't panic. The good thing I like is what Cifuentes says. Now, when we were okay but not great at the start of the season under Cooper's comments came across as like someone who was just sitting in the stand. There was nothing specific. He wasn't picking up on any subtleties in the game or areas where we were lacking. What I liked about Cifuentes is his comments were the same that we all saw for a change. And it's nice for a manager to see the game that we saw. And the fact that he came out and he said, we talked before the game about what they were going to do and how we need to combat it. So that's good. He's got a plan. What he hasn't got clearly is the players who can put that plan into position, as it were. Now, whether that's mentally, whether it's physically, whether it's just the state of mind that they're in, that they don't really want to be there and they're not bothered. I think you're right, Tom. There's a few there that clearly don't want to play. You know, I said this a few weeks ago, pre-season. Winks to me, I said, had checked out. He's checked out the club. As soon as he had that falling out for me, he was gone. He didn't want to play, and he's shown it in the 2 games that he's actually played.
Who was that, sorry?
I think you're muted, Tom.
No, Craig, who did you? Sorry, I missed the players.
Winks, sorry. Winks had checked out. I said this weeks ago. I don't think he was there. And I think we need to get the window closed, and then you need another month or whatever. We saw it with the aforementioned Cooper at Forest, who came into Forest, I think, halfway through the season when they were near the bottom 3 and got them into the top 6 and got promoted. This is a division where you can do it. So there's definitely no need to panic in my eyes, because I think we do have some good players. I don't think you can throw all the youth in together. You need that mix. But I like what Marty is saying, and I just hope that he can find the solutions in the squad of players that he's got. Those who want to work hard, first of all, and then find some intelligence in the team. And I will go back, and I know I pat myself on the back a lot. At the start of the season, we were talking about defence. We were talking about strikers not having goals. I still maintain the middle of the pitch is the bit where we are lacking. There is no one there, who can carry out a plan. There's no one who can take the game by the scruff of the neck. And sometimes it means that the defence do get left exposed. You can't excuse some of the shocking defending that was going on, but they do get exposed, and I think he needs to sort that middle of the pitch out. And I don't know where that solution's coming from. That's my biggest worry. But the honeymoon's not over yet. I think he's I think he's saying the right things. I think when it's his team or he knows who he's got, then he can start being a bit harder with it, because I think it's difficult at the minute to fall out with players because you don't know if they're still going to be here.
I want to take you up on a couple of things before I just come to you, Dave. I want to go back to a couple of things with Craig. Find intelligence in the team. I don't think if you put Miss Marple, Kojak and Colombo together, they could find intelligence in this team, to be honest with you. And I could throw Sherlock Holmes in there as well. But what the serious one I want to come back to you on first of all is, you like what Cifuentes says. Now, I can remember, I think, and please correct me if I'm wrong, and I'm sure you will do, Craig, at the start of last season, there was an evening where the new ladies manager and Steve Cooper did a thing, and a question and answer thing, wasn't it? And I seem to remember you coming out there saying, I like what Steve Cooper's saying.
Yeah, I did. And then he didn't put it into practice. He went totally against what he said. He was saying, I wasn't going to tinker with it too much. And then he brought in a load of old players. He was going to respect the club, this, that, and the other. He was going to do all of this. And I don't know if you were there, Tom, or anyone else. I know Kate was there. And he basically went against everything that he said. Now, that to me is someone who was just trying to curry favour in front of a live audience, as it were. Now, obviously, Marty could do exactly the same. The difference is I'm reading more of a tactical intelligence from what Marty is saying than I did with Cooper.
Fair point. No, fair point. Dave, again, Craig said he's saying the right things. We can all say the right things, can't we? It's whether you actually put those into action. And he wait till the end of the transfer window. He knows the team that he's got. But let's say we're stuck with Winks, Sumare, Skip, Vestergaard. I'm not going to put FaZe into that because he's actually had a couple of good games. So respect to FaZe for that. Make the most of that, Craig. Make a note of it. I'll never say that again. But no, he has credit where credit's due. Like I said at the start, everybody got a clean sheet. But a lot of these players aren't living up. So surely he knows now that whether these players are shit or not. He's had them now 3 games, a friendly. He would know, I can't work with this guy. This guy's absolutely rubbish. Whether he's for sale or not for sale, or somebody's going to buy him or not going to buy him, he should know now. And having said, we don't really know, this team could be good enough, it's just not, is it?
Well, what's the options? That's the problem. Would he do another Harry Winks and say to Vestergaard and that, go on gardening leave for a year again? Because nobody wants you. We don't want you. So why would anybody else want you?
Look, Winks has got. Let's use Winks then as an example, Dave. And I do take your point.
I feel sad about Winks because I thought he played pretty well the year we got promotion in a team that was playing around him. The team that Craig, the guy in the middle that Craig said we need. So what's gone on there, I don't know. But clearly he's not performing now. But I look at that back four and I think, cool. Thomas couldn't get a sniff for the last 2 years. And he's probably our best player in this year so far. Certainly one of them. Justin can't defend. As for the 2 central mid defenders, well, you saw the goals. I mean, they're just outpaced. And I think, what's his option? So if you don't play them, who's he play? And
well, he's got a squad bigger than the squad he's allowed to name, but he has named his squad. He goes to other players. He doesn't start these players. And like you say, and I will take your point up with Winks, he was good in that season. His head, as Craig said, has probably been turned with talk of Valencia and what have you, although I don't know, what time he'd get there commuting from Milton Keynes. But, there we go. He obviously, my observation that when he played in the second half, because that was the time he got to the ground, again, he started the last game, so that was out of the window. But he's got a year left on his contract. Put him out to grass. Don't play him just because Yuri Tielemans. We played him, and he was awful at the end, Dave. Absolutely awful. And yet we played him week after week after week, and we know what he could do, but he just wasn't doing it. So why pick them? Pick somebody else.
So was Harry Maguire the year he left for Man United. He had a brilliant season for us. Then the year that he moved, he was awful.
Yeah, but that was to Man United. I don't particularly care what he does to Man United.
Leicester's last season, he was terrible.
Was he?
Yeah. I watched nearly every game that year, and like his head was somewhere else. Well,
I won't argue with you, and I will accept that. I didn't really notice that, but no, I take it.
Footballers are human beings. They're young. We they seem a lot older than they are, but they're not. They're just kids, and they can't seem to switch off and play football. And there's all this in the background going on, the publicity, the fans, and I'll come back to my point. If you can't defend, you're not going to win anything.
Like I say, but the question was, like,
do you play them?
Do you play them? That's the thing.
Well, who else is there to play? We've got to put 11 out there. We haven't got any other defenders, apart from the ones that I think are pretty rubbish. So who do you play? The kids and just suck it for a year?
Well, there we go, Dave. Thank you very, very much, because you've just led me beautifully into my next question. I must pay you more. Tom, Dave said there, and something that I was screaming at the start of the season, that I wouldn't mind if we did get a transfer embargo, because it means that we would have to play the kids. I have to say, with one exception, and you all know who that is, the kids haven't exactly been tearing things up, have they?
Well, you see,
for the second half. Is it Louis Page? It's Louis Page? Yeah, I couldn't think of his first name then. But I can't. Nelson had an awful game first half against Huddersfield.
Yeah, but here's the point. I think actually Lewis Page is probably the best example of someone who could come in and play a part. I mean, maybe not a starting part, but off the bench, definitely. He's there already. I think, ironically, there's a bit of karma here, Chris, because there's times in the past, in the last few years as a fan base, that we have suggested that we've not been utilising our academy enough. And it's kind of like the reverse karma now. We're in a position where we're going to have to probably put faith in more younger players in order to at least change the attitude of the general football club. I mean, because the biggest problem is behind the scenes and the toxicity of individuals and not being a collective effort. We lost to Preston because they were a team. And we were a group of individuals. I think it was literally that fine of a margin. You could argue the quality of the individual players on the pitch might be better on our side of it, but the team effort from Preston was much better, and they hid their inequalities, right? And we seem to be showing our inequalities up by these players not willing to, and being in a position where they've had enough. We've had enough as a fan base. They've had enough of the booing. We've had enough of them. And this is what gets me, and that's why I mentioned Nigel Pearson in my first part of this discussion tonight. And I said, when he came in, he sacked off, Beckford, Dans and Mills. And Mills was one of our highest ever signings at that point for £5 million, but he saw he was a bad egg. So what has changed in that time for me, where you can't be at least talking to agents and saying, get your client out of my football club? I don't see why we're not doing this. I don't see why we're mollycoddling these players a little bit, because if they don't like the boos, okay, fine. There are times fans boo when it is not applicable. I would say they boo recently because it is correct. The standard hasn't been good enough. You want to go and show you win football matches. I never see any of these players like Winks and Sumar at the moment coming off that pitch with sweat dripping off them. I see them coming off looking like they just want to walk off casually and not even say hello to the fans.
Maybe they're super fit now, Tom.
I don't think so, mate. Looking at them, honestly, because if they were super fit, they'd be running a lot more than what they've actually been doing, So, I kind of think it's dependent on the position, right? I mean, I get what Dave is saying. I think there's one or two places like central midfield with Page we can slot in there that we can lose a Winks, we can lose a Sumari, and we can put Page in there. I think up front we got a problem, and I think in attacking midfield we got a problem if that happens. If we lost Bilal, I think we haven't got anyone to go in that position. I think that's why we're playing
again. We're going off the point. I'm going to bring you back. We're talking about youngsters, and now you're talking about Bilal and Bowen. So
but I was talking about the youngsters that could come in to replace those positions, Chris. And I don't think we have those for those two positions, but I think in other positions we do. But I'll finish it off at that point, mate.
Cheers, mate. Craig. Somebody who's obviously very, very intelligent and writes for the BBC said, if a week in politics is a long time, a week in football can be an eternity. There's a general feeling of well-being at Leicester City at the start of the season, despite all the troubles the club found itself in. Did we, on that first game, we've won again, 3 points, look at this, we're in 4. We should have look at those predictions. We should have been putting 3 or 4 past that team.
Well, with a bit of better finishing, we would have put 3 or 4 past them because we made the chances, which was encouraging. I think as much as, we all went in with our, or the majority, I'll leave Dave out. The majority of us went in with the sort of new season head.
Blue-tinted lasses is what you're thinking, isn't it?
Yeah. A new season, we're thinking new season. They've looked sharp against Fiorentina. We're going to do well. I think we were probably guilty of more than anything of disrespecting Sheffield Wednesday's players, who had something to play for. They weren't playing for the chairman. They were playing for the badge, and they were playing for the fans who were fantastic. And it would have been very difficult to not turn up and play in front of those fans because they were fantastic. And this brings me back to, again, slap me back if I'm going slightly off piece, is that I've said this for a few years. What we should be buying is character, not necessarily quality. If you're a professional footballer at this stage, you have a decent amount of footballing skill. You should have, or you haven't got through. I heard today it's like 1 in 100 kids come through an academy and actually make it into the professional ranks. So if you've done all that and then you become a professional footballer, you're a decent footballer. What you can't coach is character. And that's what we haven't had for far too long. And the likes of Pearson, the likes of O'Neill, they would judge character above footballing ability, because with character, you won't necessarily get relegated. You might not hit the heights, but it will get you a bloody long way, particularly in this division. And I think that's where we're lacking. So that's why you see this mentality and want to do well from the young kids, because they've been brought through the system. It's their club. They believe it. Those who are just on high wages and will go to the next one who pays them the high wages, it's not in their blood. The character isn't there. And that's why we see it with Vestergaard. That's why we see it with Winks. They show their true character by not performing and crying when things, they don't get everything handed to them on a silver platter. That's what we need to get back to. Yeah.
Talking of character, Dave. Very nicely on today. 7 changes against Huddersfield. Like I say, Huddersfield are a third-tier team, but last season they were in the same division that we are now in. But when you watch that game, you could not tell what the ex-Premier League team and the League One team were. You couldn't say, though, that team was definitely that. 7 changes. What does that say about our squad depth? Because it wasn't the first team, or what Marty thinks would be the first team. There was players in there and that's my opinion. That's what people do with the cup. And I'm not overly bothered that we've gone out the cup, but it's just the way we went out. But surely that says, again, and I'm going to include myself in this, fantastic squad, got all these youngsters coming through, and then that goes and happens. Does that say that we've not got the squad depth that we actually thought we had got?
Yeah, I read somewhere that, I don't know whether it's a reporter or you, said that despite putting out a strong team, Leicester lost at Huddersfield. It wasn't
me. No, it wasn't.
And I thought, well, how arrogant is that? We can put a stronger side out than a League One side with our reserves in it, and people who, again, don't want to play for the club. So, okay, we didn't lose, did we, technically? But
our name's not in the next round, mate.
I wasn't surprised again, and I thought, that's a bugger, but I'm glad we're out because then we can start doing the serious stuff and make sure we stay up.
Yeah.
Because I'm not so sure we've got the quality that's good enough to get promoted. There's some blooming strong sides in that. You've just got to watch the early games. Even Wrexham, like that, gave Southampton a good run for their money.
Yeah, but they have got Cody and Ward, haven't they?
Harsh.
I've got to say, I'm just going to come in at that point. I was telling Tom this yesterday. I don't know if any of you guys follow TikTok or not, but we do have an LTID TV TikTok channel, so do over there and check it out. What we do is a lot of these shows, they cut up into little segments and put up on TikTok. And I follow, obviously, therefore, a lot of football channels. And I saw a channel coming up. There was a Wrexham channel, a Wrexham fan doing it. And he was going mental and raving about Danny Ward. Not in a good way. What the hell have we signed this player for? How can he get beaten at his near club? I just put a message on the thing for him. Welcome to our world. But I do, as you said, Dave, I do worry when the likes of, a Birmingham, or a even a Southampton, when some of these clubs come to us, I worry for us.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we've got to be careful. And I mean, I'd give the guy at least a year anyway to get it right because we've been through so much rubbish and we still don't know where we are, do we?
I'm not saying that it's Marty's fault.
Well,
I mean,
he's always the manager's fault, but
Oh no, but I put in my piece here. New boss Marty Cifuentes arrived with a welcome that even the second coming might not generate. And he gets to beat Fiorentina, which isn't for everybody. Nottingham Forest United, but
it was a friendly, Chris.
It was, but it's not his fault. It is. It is the players. He's got to be given at least a year to get his thoughts.
Yeah, he has. But also, he's got to be careful. He plays the right players.
He has. That's the big thing.
If he keeps playing that back four, we're going to concede goals like it's going out of fashion. Clubs all know that now. They know that JJ gets caught out behind. They know Vestergaard's slow. They know that Woot's pretty laid back about life in general. And they're going to punish him for it.
I like Woot now. Don't you? He's had a couple of good games for me, Woot, and fair play to him. Craig's falling off his chair, but I'm not saying that it's Marty's fault, but it's funny. We played against a team in Preston that I didn't think anybody did this anymore. He said sarcastically. They played two up front.
Yeah, and it was funny because they doubled up on the Sheffield Wednesday situation and actually made it work, right? They played one up front in a similar formation. And
yet, we have two up front. It makes no difference to us when we bring Mr. Look, I'm not having to go. I'm not going to start saying here Daka and his crap and all that. We know that, but Daka and Ayew up front, and it did make a blind bit of difference. I just think we were lulled into a false sense of security by our own arrogance, if you like, as Leicester fans, thinking we're going to be better than we actually are.
Well, I think the problem is, I don't think it's arrogance, because I think arrogance has been banded around here quite a lot. So I don't think it's arrogance. I think the fact we know that we've seen these players perform in different places and also for us before shows there is something there. But for whatever reason, hey, look, recently, what was it? Katy Perry and Orlando Bloom are getting a divorce. They're two successful individuals, right? Yeah, they're getting a divorce, yeah. And they're two successful individuals, right? But collectively, I know he's on to Katy Perry's number right now. But my point is that,
Okay, no, ignore him.
No, you're talking to Dave. This is me. I tell you what. She's been through, that's a second divorce. I'm sorry, I sidetracked Katie. She's, as you said, she's got a couple of nice bit of flotation aids.
I chose the wrong comparison because I set you boys off, didn't I? But no, my point is that, like, you know, we've seen it before with Leicester, with Lookman, for example, who's gone on to Atlanta and done very well. Sometimes you do not fit with who you're with, and I think there has been a stagnation that's occurred for 2 years about this, right? You know, and I kind of forgot the original question you asked, Chris, after you did that.
It's about the two up front.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
why you brought Katy Perry up?
Yeah, exactly. I wasn't thinking about Katy Perry or Orlando Bloom, just to make that clear. But no. I think the interesting thing is that we lack strikers, and what really gets me, Chris, is that I kind of feel we're a parody of a football club right now, especially at the top end of the pitch. I kind of think everyone else is a bit more real than we are. We lack that, you know, and I don't trust the board to go out there and buy a new striker. And I think we need to go out and buy a new striker, but I don't think they've got a good judgment on who to bring in, because we had Edouard last time, right? And Edouard obviously never featured for us. So I kind of feel
that was under Cooper, wasn't it? And I honestly think that the managers do have to have a say as to who they want to come in. And Edouard was very much a gamble, if you like. It was we need a striker who is available. Moving on to strikers, Craig. And sorry to pull you up on Katy Perry there. I know. I think you boobed on mentioning her, if I'm honest with you, but you did get a couple of titters. But there's an interesting story that I saw today. I didn't put it up in social media. That Leicester City, and this is something apparently we're actually good at, are the winners in the Tom Cannon situation. Mm-hmm. You know, we were all again as fans going, give us Cannon, put Cannon on. He can't do any worse. Blah, blah. Sheffield United could be regretting. I'm just trying to get it up here and see. Here we go. The headline was, Leicester City are the ones laughing. Sheffield United's 10 million Tom Cannon deal isn't working out. It is and again, that was a bit of a strange decision bringing him in because he was injured. Mm-hmm. The manager has to decide, but I trust Marty to know what to bring the right players in if he does.
You would hope so. I mean, well done, John Rudkin, for getting 10 million for him. Let's pop
that's fair point. Fair point.
Let's pop that one in the bank.
Yeah.
I mean, Tom's right. It's about chemistry. You know, it's the best teams are the ones that are greater than the sum of their parts. And for the want of bringing it up again, 2015, you know, we won the league with the team that is the epitome of that.
We won the league, did we?
We did, yeah. It's, you know, a team who knew their jobs and were happy doing their jobs and working their asses off for each other. That's what a football team is about. If you can sprinkle it in with one or two superstars, great. So that's where he needs to start. People who know their jobs, don't go beyond it. Just be solid, and then, you know, we'll see what's going on. I mean, the two up front, I mean, we say it didn't work. It worked really well when Ayew and Daka came on to work together against Sheffield Wednesday. That worked really well. Mm-hmm. You know, Daka works his socks off. We know that. He's just, we're either not creating the clear chances or he's not confident enough. But they're easy targets, those players. But it's about finding a blend, and a manager can't find that blend. He has to try a lot of things. And unfortunately, you know, he didn't come in like when we got Maresca. He was in right at the start of the close season. He had a full pre-season. He knew the players he got. We went out and bought players early on. He worked with that team. Cifuentes is having to do his findings on the pitch, as it were, trying to find that right blend. And that's what he did against Huddersfield, threw a few more of the kids in. Clearly didn't work. Alves looks like he's not strong enough in that position, so maybe better out wide. But I think the manager will get it right, you know, and it is about a little bit of chemistry, you know, trying a few different test tubes or whatever and seeing what actually works. There's good enough players there if their attitude is right, and I'll come back to that. The attitude has to be right first.
But then if you're going to get the right attitude, and we saw this under Ruud van Nistelrooy, picking a player week in, week out, you know, month in, month out, playing the same formation, coming up with the same loss, if you like. That's not weeding it out, is he?
No, well, this is what I hope that you know. Van Nistelrooy said certain things that you thought, okay, yeah, he's up on that. He knows what's gone wrong there, and then he would pick exactly the same team. So this is what I hope Cifuentes doesn't fall into the same trap. As you say, he has got a finite number of players. I said right at the start of the season, when we were picking our starting teams, and I'd said, I think everyone else has Vestergaard in there because he's a great passer of the ball, and that's what we like. My opinion was I would have somebody who's got 70% of his passing ability, but 150% of his pace. Because at this level, in these games, ordinary teams can run past you, and that's what happened. They don't have to be great players. They don't have to have really great movement or whatever. If they can get the ball, because we're going to be pushing on more and more. Yes, quite right, Chris. We're going to be having a lot of possession and pushing on. You are susceptible to a counter-attack. And if you're susceptible to a counter-attack, you cannot have people who have no pace.
I hate this, but you're right. And I know I was watching, I can't remember which game it was. I think it was probably Preston game. No, it wasn't. I don't know what game, but basically...
Towards the end of the Preston game, the guy just ran past him, gave him a 10-yard start and ran past him.
Samare was running back towards the defence. All their players were running past it. And then coming down the ring, Thomas was running past Samare to try and get back into position to play him, to do something. And Samare's just sort of, he's like, he can cause trouble when he's there, but you wouldn't sort of be worried about getting run over by an elephant, would you? But
we talked about it, and I know in the close season, I think we talked about Pearson as well, and as Tom's brought him up again, who would be perfect for a director of football role, I think.
Yeah.
I
said that again. Yeah. I agree.
Just going in there and checking that the first thing is all about character, then pick the best player. But we don't even have a conversation unless the player is of the right.
Unfortunately, I don't think there's any chance. I think I've got more chance of actually dating Katy Perry than we have of getting a new football director of football.
I don't want to break this to you, Chris, but I don't think that's right.
Me dating Katy Perry?
Yeah, I think there is more chance of Pearson becoming director of football than you dating Katy Perry. There may be a lot of Katy Perrys around.
Isn't it madness, boys? Isn't it quickly madness, the fact that we've gone away from the thing that worked? Sorry, Chris, to interrupt, but it's a big point Craig made there, and that's the problem we've got right now. We've gone away from a system that worked under Steve Walsh. We signed players with character, sold them for profit, and we knew we had no problems of attitude, and look what happened afterwards. Why have we gone away from what worked? What has gone on there?
I will answer that, and then I want to move on to Dave, because he's been sat patiently waiting. The reason we've got away from that is different manager. I think Susan Whelan's no longer involved in the football side financially. She's been shunted to the left. We've got a new owner, Fichai passed. We've got Top. Steve Walsh left. Different managers come in with different attitudes. You cannot change as much as we had changed at the club, and it still remained the same. Dave, I want to get back onto the topic, though, about sort of, strikers and whatever. Tom Cannon, and like I say, I really, really wanted him. However, his early season output, it says here, has only intensified concerns for Sheffield United. In 152 minutes of football across 3 games, he's managed just 1 shot on target. And it says here, Leicester City emerge as the real winners. Leicester's decision to cash in on Cannon now looks increasingly shrewd. The Foxes, then promoted back to the Premier League, parted with a player who was not central to their plans, but commanded a sizable transfer fee. And look, we all think we know who the best players are. Craig would have Faze in every team. I would probably have AU in all of my teams from the pool that we've got to fish. But sometimes you've got to say the club do know what they're doing, but it doesn't always look like that straight away. And I have to say, we're always very quick to jump on John Rudkin. 10 million for Cannon looks a bloody good deal now. 2 million for Cody. I mean, he stood his ground and he said, "You're not going to Rangers on a free," because he just thought he'd go up, maybe get a couple of titles or a couple of cups up there. He held out and he got 2 million. Sometimes they do know what they're doing.
Oh, it's pot luck, isn't it? But the point is, I'm getting 10 quid on Cannon to score against us.
Oh, yeah.
As most of our
that goes without saying, doesn't it?
Yeah, most of our shit strikers do when they leave. But I quite like the guy. I don't think he got any service at Leicester. I can't believe he's getting a lot at Sheffield United. They've not exactly started off well, have they?
No, but then you've got to say they did last season, and I don't think he set off anything last season, and they did well.
Champion team last season for them, wasn't they?
We always say, like, a manager with this is the third manager that's come in and he doesn't get on with this player. It must be the player's problem. Well, when you got a manager, when you're saying he's not getting any service here and he's not getting any service at Sheffield United, maybe again it's the player.
Maybe it is, but also he didn't get many games at Leicester, did he? He came off the bench a few times. I don't think he played too many starts. Sure, you'll tell me he did, but I can't remember.
No, he got very few starts. That's the problem. Yeah,
it's not the best way to get somebody in the groove. It's a bit like Eniacho. If he'd have started more, he'd have scored more goals. We all know that, but he didn't. So why not?
Probably not under Ruud van Nistelrooy, though.
Well, I think it was. Sorry, Dave. I think it was interesting that, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think Cannon was available for selection under 4 different managers at Leicester.
Right.
And none of them fancied him, which tells me there's something else going on the training pitch.
Yeah.
It was what we were saying, wasn't it, Craig? Different managers, same thoughts about a player, and goes to a different club, and it still is not. I mean, he may come good, who knows? But I'd be going mad if our main striker only had 1 shot on target. And I have to say, just in my defence, because I did say that we would be starting AU up front this season, and according to Opta, who obviously are the big stats peoples, the total shots so far of the players in the Premier League, in the Championship, in 5th place it's Jack Rodney or Rudini, don't know where he's from. In 4th it's Bilal. In 3rd it's Adam Armstrong from Southampton. 2nd Jay Robinson from Southampton, and in 1st place, although it might only be 1st place because it's alphabetical, in 1st place, Jordan Ayew.
Can you do the shots on target one, Chris?
No, I haven't got that up here, so don't. I can do goals. Yeah. And you know who's 5th in the goals? Wout Faes. Craig, I bow to you, sir.
What I would say is, I bet Faes' on target percentage of efforts is a lot higher than Ayew's. Let's find a stat that works for us all.
You're asking me for a stat that I haven't got, so I can't argue with that. But I am saying on total shots, which there's a stat I haven't got, albeit on alphabetical, because he's had 6, the same as Jay Robinson, but he is top. Tom, I want to bring this in now, if I can. Just let me have a little quick move around. We did talk about this on briefly before we came live. Mr. Fatawu, so disappointed about the game yesterday, but as we say and believe that Foxes never quit, and it is too early at this stage of the season, seeing fans leave stadium so early when we are down by 1. This is the best time we need you. You can't be celebrating win with the team and don't want to lose with the team. Sorry, this is obviously written by him because of the grammar. This is a game of football, and you can't be winning every time. So we need everyone in both sides so you can be proud to celebrate victories with the team. This is the time to stick together, to be strong, to make the team get what they deserve. Thanks to all the travelling fans for you are amazing support, but we need more, and congrats to Joey Mamonga for getting the first goal. I'm struggling. I didn't realise sort of that. You say it's his agent, but I think if his agent had written that, it might have been a little bit better English. The Leicester Mercury, Leicestershire Live, said probably the right thing to say, but it probably didn't need saying at the moment. It was probably, throwing a can of petrol on a bonfire and expecting to put it out.
Yeah, well, it's interesting. I get his feeling on it, but I think that the statement was daft. I think it's very daft, and I think because it's contradictory on what he's saying in the first place to the second part of it as well. And I think the thing is that, and we talked about this earlier, Chris, I have no problem with the fans booing. And I know people have been like, oh, we need to support the team and all the rest of it. I have no problem with the fans booing at all. And the reason why is because the standard needs to be set. And we've had a bad standard at this football club for far too long. I sent you that quote earlier that come from my other love in life, the Toronto Maple Leafs, one of their players, didn't I? And what did he say?
Bear with me. I'm just going to... I don't know. Where did you send it me?
I sent it to your messenger. I'll send it to you, your thingy, mate, and you can put it on screen of what one of the Toronto Maple Leaf players said. I'll tell you what.
If you can add it to the screen,
I'll send it to you on WhatsApp, mate, so you can put it on, because I've got it here right now and I'll do it for you. But I won't say what it says, but I'll tell you what, like, the thing that gets me about this is that I understand the frustration, but this shows an individual element to me about him being frustrated individually, because no one's booing Abdou Fatawau, as an individual. We're booing the collective effort. And he says you can't win football matches all the time. I completely agree about that. However, when you start a football match, you don't desire to go and win a football match, you're setting a bad precedent as a football club. You're setting a bad precedent as a group of players, and you're going to get it. And I'm sorry. And I tell you what, if they were ice hockey players, mate, they would literally. I'm just sending it to you now.
The only picture I've got of you is of, as I said earlier, the banana mobile.
I've just sent that. I'm sending it to you now, mate. It's coming, and yes, you can put it on screen. But this is what one of this guys. And don't forget, my ice hockey team hasn't won a trophy since 1967, right? So it kind of shows you, the level of disparity between Leicester and us, and in that, because it's not working now. But yeah, no, my point is that, like, I don't think booing is a bad thing. I know, like, sometimes we can overboo and sometimes we can underboo, but if we're going to be a bit more woke about it and try and mollycoddle the players, they're not going to get the message. I'm sorry. The standards need to be more. And if Abdou's got a problem, go to your teammates and get more out of your teammates. Get your collective effort better. Do you know what I mean? It's not working, Chris. I'll try and send it to you again, mate. But pass on to the next question.
I'm going to try and bring it up here. Dave, I'm just going to jump you and I'm going to go to Craig, because I know Craig's got has a saying about booing. Because you don't like it in any form, do you, Craig?
No, I think it has its place. Whether it's at the end of a game and it's if it's targeted or whatever. What I would say is, your football team. Do you want to just do that bit, Chris, before I go on to this?
Sorry, Craig. Tom, there you go.
Yeah, sorry, Mel. I was just trying to send it to you again. Yeah, I mean, I'm not trying to change this off Leicester too much, but I mean, that kind of shows you the level of energy that my ice hockey team have right now. And it's why I know we'll probably win the Stanley Cup in 2 years, despite the difference, because they are embracing the noise and saying fans are booing us for a reason, rather than going, we're being booed and being mollycoddled, and it's, the fans hate us. Work out why, because there's no reason that the fans want to boo you unless the effort isn't enough. So I'll say to Abdou, look, I love him to death. No one's ever booed him individually. I appreciate him trying to defend his teammates, but he's better off going behind the scenes and making sure, if he's got that feeling about it, that the rest of the boys, like Max Domi has said it about Toronto, are going to go out there and do the job, because we don't want to be low vibrational people that are going to accept failure. We don't want to, we don't want to be that group. And the thing is, Chris, when we were in our own heads about what we believe in, what we want to do, playing that system under Ranieri, we won a Premier League out of our solidity of our values of being a team. So we have been shown that is the way to do it. So there is no excuses for me. The booing is rightly deserved, and they've got to not shut it out. They've got to embrace it and work with it.
Craig, before I come to you.
Yeah, what I would say about booing is, there's a time and a place. First game of the season, I don't think is the place. Second game, third game, I don't. We're booing. We could play well for 20 minutes, absolutely batter a team, hit the woodwork 4 times, and then concede a goal, and our fans would boo, because that's where we're at. And the other thing I would say is, football is different to a lot of other things. And I think you're right. We shouldn't accept low standards. You've got to build it from within. There's got to be certain levels that you would aspire to. And somehow we have to get back to that. And I know Cifuentes has talked about Foxes never quit a lot. He needs to try and instill that into them and get back to that. But the one thing I would say is football clubs are like family. I put this on a post in Facebook. For many, football clubs are family. You have your family, but then you pick a football club and then you're with them for life, kind of thing. Nobody rallies round your family when everything's going well. Oh, so-and-so's doing really well at the minute. Let's all go round. It doesn't happen in a family, and it doesn't happen at a football club. People rally round when things are not going well, and that shows the character of the fans as well as the character of the players. The fans at the moment are showing their character, and it's pretty weak to me, because if they actually stopped and showed and recognised the power that they have, fans have huge power, and it's up to them how they implement it. And I think they could make such a difference. They could turn around and say, we're going to be the difference. Regardless of what goes on the pitch, we're going to be, a fan base that just gives everything we've got. And I don't think the fans have done that, to be honest. I don't think they've kept up their part of the bargain. I think they're very happy to go with the success, but are very quickly to desert them when it's not going so well. And I know we all have players that we don't like, and we all have players that we don't think are putting in the effort, and we would all love to play, so we have a right to do that. But I think there's a balance to be found, and the balance is choose when and where. If they've played really bad, the big thing I would say, and this is on the players, if they've given everything, and we've talked about this, players not walking off with sweat. If they've given everything, fair play. If they haven't, then you can get booed, regardless of your talent. Whether your skills. The bad thing is when fans get on players performance can be hampered. You get rid of the ball very quick. Yeah. You don't have that extra touch or whatever. Don't give it to me. And players go hiding. Yeah, it does pull out those who have got the stronger character. But there's a balance to be found, and I hope we can find that balance on the pitch and off the pitch.
Dave, when we were losing all those games in the 14-15 season, I never heard any booing.
Well, the fans are all these millennials now, aren't they, that think everyone owes them a right. So, we have a right to win the league.
That was pre-cup win when we weren't really expecting to do anything, I guess. But as Craig said, the performances were there. I think it was Bill Shankly that said, if you can't support us when we lose, don't support us when we win.
Yeah.
Is that any different, really, to what Fatawu is saying? And, if Craig is saying, and quite rightly, I would agree, booing this early in the season is a little bit off. You can criticise performances. It's what we're here to sort of do. But is that really not what Fatawu is saying the same as?
Well, he's only 21 years old, so he doesn't know what he's saying. Very talented young man, but he doesn't know what he's saying. No, he doesn't. It's just a kid, and all these kids come out with this shit, and they really don't think about it before they say it.
Spoken like an old man.
Well, exactly. I've never booed Leicester in my life, and I've lived through some fucking hard times, I promise you. Before you guys were probably born. So I understand the frustration, but we used to go down the pub and talk about it to our mates, not boo the players. We had players like Worthington and Weller and that lot who were awful at times, believe it or not. Now they're the best things we've ever had. But I promise you, we had some terrible games under them. Nobody booed. No. Because it was Leicester, it was our team, and I think we've lost that as a club.
Let me ask you this then, Dave.
Yeah.
is 2016 going to be our 1966?
Yeah.
Are we always going to be? Well, we've won that in doing this, and we're not. We'll be releasing a single. 75 years of hurt or whatever. Thankfully, I won't be here when that comes round. But had we not won that or won the FA Cup, would we still be booing? It's like you say, it is the younger fans, and when we complain about Man United fans, it's never the older fans that we're complaining about. It's all of those that only started supporting them, Alex Ferguson onwards. And let's be honest with you, he did a fantastic job. But
those fans wouldn't be there, Chris. Those fans wouldn't be there if we hadn't won those things. That's the point. And we could carry on seeing 3 foxes on our shirt or something forever, but we're not going to do that again. It's just not like that anymore, so we've got to live with it. It's our club. It's more important than bloody results, believe me.
I've just got the 3 foxes on our shirt reference. Sorry, I'm a bit slow. Well said.
But it is more important. It's our club, and that's what these kids that I've seen in away games forget. I don't know what it gets into them. I don't know what they're on. I don't know what they drink, but they shouldn't drink it. They're not old enough, and that's the big problem. They
should have been put to death at birth, shouldn't they, Dave? They should have been drowned before they even took the first breath.
They should have been checked after the FA Cup win to see if they got history. But the point is that it's our football club, and these guys don't understand that. So why would you boo? In the first half, it was awful. Of course it was. But booing, no matter, some of these footballers are very dodgy.
Dave, doesn't booing go into tough love a little bit, which is a bit more of a retro style of loving, and trying to help people a little bit as well, rather than being a bit more woke nowadays, where we forgive people far too easily?
I don't think they've got the character, Tom. I really don't. I don't think they've got the character of your guy here, or even rugby union players. You don't hear much booing at rugby union, do you?
No, and also actually the women's game has got better character than the male game now, hasn't it?
Yeah, well,
has the money got too much?
It has at the moment, but with the women's game, you don't go all over TikTok, Twitter, or whatever and see these little mini posts of them having a joke or, swallowing water with their head held back. That's the women's game as it is, and it's making them very accessible to fans. But down the line, I don't know that it won't get to the same, thing.
I think the other thing, sorry, because we live in a different age now, where everybody thinks their opinion is valuable. We're all sitting here giving our opinion, because we think, we've got something worth listening to. And people want to express it, they want to express it, whether it's through this, whether it's through the ground. But the thing that annoys me more than anything is that we love a scapegoat, and we will go after that scapegoat.
Yeah.
They can have 90 minutes of a fantastic performance and they'll make a mistake and it'll be their fault. The players we love, we talked about it. Vardy was awful for a lot of last season, but he got all that in the bank. So he got away with it. Fast is one they'll go after. Going back to Daniel Amati, for instance, who put in some really solid performances.
Don't you have a go at Dave's love child here? Whatever you do.
Right. But what happens is when players put in good performances, they're just not mentioned. It's not mentioned so-and-so had a good game. They'll wait until. So nobody's treated the same. We have our scapegoats, and then we act like sheep and we go after them. The fact that Rudkin out was chanted 20 minutes into the first game for no reason other than these people don't know what else to do other than, maybe chant "We love you, Leicester" or something, maybe. I don't know what it is. But the dynamic has changed and we only see Leicester stuff. And I'm sure every club has the same kind of thing and their fans are all over social media saying exactly the same, and the same conversations are being had up and down the nation. But that's because it's football, It's football. It's a cyclical game. It's a roller coaster of a ride, and the highs are fantastic, and the lows are the worst thing in between. And at Leicester, We don't do Coventry. You know, we don't do that. We don't muddle along, and you know, we celebrate staying up. You know, we have the highs and we have the lows that come with it. And I'd rather have the highs and the lows than just the mediocrity of 20 years, winning nothing, being nowhere, you know. So it's all part of it, and I wouldn't change it. I wouldn't change the last 20 years we've had at this football club for anything.
Paul there had a season ticket. Sorry, let me just read this out. Sorry, Dave. Yeah. Had a season ticket since the Pleat years, gave it up 2 seasons ago. Football isn't the same. I watch non-league. When I first came down here, I went to watch Poole Town. I've said this story many, many times. They've now sold it. They've now sold the club, and it's a completely different club. When I came down, it was fantastic. Yeah. The guy next to me behind the goal was effing and blinding. And, of course, I said, oh, well, how long have you been supporting the club? He says, I bloody own it. You know, it is proper. And you don't use this term lightly. It is proper football. And my 2 nephews, and congratulations to them, one's just signed for Dorchester Town, one's just signed for Christchurch. And when you go down, yes, you get the diehard fans having a go. But, you know, as Wayne said there, when I was a lad, football club, you were lucky. We had no football club. Sorry, Dave. Carry on before I talk Daniel and Marty.
Put the record straight on a Marty. I thought he was great in midfield. Didn't have a problem with him. And then bloody Claphams decided to play him as centre half. And that's when he started making serious mistakes. So that was my only argument with him. Yeah. Come on, Daniel, you're doing good. And I saw a comment early on from some of the guys that about putting Woot into the midfield, and I wouldn't have a problem with that because he's certainly he's certainly struggling as a defender.
I've been screaming for it for about a year now because I think he's a bit of a David Luiz.
Yeah, and he can make mistakes in midfield, and we get away with it, but not at the back. And this is where Marty lost out. He was a midfielder, really.
I've just Googled Daniel Amarte, and one of the things that comes up says, is Daniel Amarte going to Bayern? Although with their manager at the moment, of course, which is Vincent Kompany, who knows? But I'm going to say...
is he going to buy in?
On the 21st of July, 2023, Amarte signed a contract with Super League club Besiktas. On the 13th of September 2024, so some 13, 14 months later, Amarte's contract has been terminated with Besiktas for an undisclosed reason, and he is not currently playing anywhere.
Are you saying he's available?
Yeah.
Yes. Get him in. John Rudkin. I know, Mr. Rudkin. I know you watch this program. Daniel Amarte is on a free agent. You would make Dave the happiest man going if you did.
Transfer deadline day, Amarte, Vardy, and Old Brighton come in.
Amarte did have a bit of character about him because he was relentlessly booed, but he always put a good shift in, whether he made a rick or not.
I never booed him.
No, you didn't. You just slagged him off like he was your worst enemy.
He shouldn't be playing at centre half.
I know we used to bring up a little picture of Daniel Amarte, and you always smiled when I brought it up. Last thing on this difference, Tom, between what is it, Alex there? What Alex is saying and what Fataru said, because you basically were saying what Bill Shankly said. Should he not have said it? And then I just want to go on to a last point before we round it up.
Yeah, it's Max Domi. His name is Max Domi, and the difference is, Chris, is that I'll tell you what. Yeah, Max. Yeah, I'll tell you what. If a Leicester City player played for the Toronto Maple Leafs, they'll have a nervous breakdown because I tell you what, go watch how they get booed. Because in the last game of our playoffs last year, there's been no Leicester fans throwing shirts onto the pitch. There's been no Leicester fans having riots outside the arena, which is what happened in Toronto this year, right? So, look, I'm going to say is, look, that's the point. I mean, Max Domi there is showing you've got to embrace the noise and not work against the fans. If you might not understand why the fans are booing, but I think sometimes you've got to take a step back and go, what can I do? Bearing in mind my position of privilege, wearing this beautiful football badge, which has a history and a lineage that goes back for well over 120 odd years, beyond ourselves as individuals, and how we can affect that in a positive way. So that's what the boys boys need to do, Chris. I'm sorry. It needs to be more pure, it needs to be less woke and more old school.
The last point then before we end the show. I'm going to let you lead with this question. You can ask the question, Tom, because it is something that you brought up yesterday, and it wasn't the spoon's food, but what you brought up yesterday,
it was close.
With me and Jim, and to say that you actually got me and Jim agreeing on something is quite interesting, because we don't agree on virtually 99% of things, but we did on this. But your theory about a striker.
About Jamie Vardy?
That's the one.
Yeah. See, I can't remember what we said, Chris. Now you've completely thrown me out. I mean, I think we should probably.
You basically said, and you're backtracking here. I feel before we've even got to the question.
I can't remember what I said, Chris.
You said nobody, and quite rightly, you said nobody has come in for Jamie Vardy, which they haven't. Maybe he's not this super god that we as Leicester fans think he is, because there should have been, listening to him talking about himself, listening to the Leicester fans blowing up his arse, although the fact that he'd had a bad last 2 seasons, and I'm sorry, Craig, I don't get all this, well, he's got it in the bank. I've got money in the bank, but if it's robbed, I've lost that money. And
you're agreeing with what I said.
Did I? Sorry, then
I said he got away with it because he got it in the bank. I don't think he should.
I apologise, sir. Okay. Yeah. I apologise. But look, every Leicester fan thinking, he's going to go to America, he's going to go to Saudi Arabia. And Tom came out and said, well, if he's not been signed up, why not bring him back to Leicester?
Yeah, and I'll back this. Yeah, I did see that. I thought that's what you were going for. I wanted to double check that wasn't your point you were trying to make here. But ultimately, for him to move house or move abroad or anything else, it's going to cost a lot of money. If we can get him on a good deal right now, let's be frank, we haven't got 10 million quid to go buy a striker for. And I actually don't trust the football club to go and spend 10 million quid on a striker right now, because it'd probably be Adi Akinbaye Mark II, bearing in mind what the director of football's been doing. So I think actually in a situation where we're in the rubbish, and I'll tell you what, guys, let me make a bold prediction. Say we're in 15th, 16th position come January and Jamie Vardy's still available, I think we'll have to bring him back like a superhero, as if it's some sort of Superman film coming in to save the day, because I think he will at least bring 50% of the attitude change we have needed in this football club. And ironically, Vardy was never a leader. He was a good guy behind the scenes, had a lot of banter, he kept the group on a positive level, but he might have to step up and be a leader because we lack leadership on that football pitch. So I'm not against it, honest to God, I'm really not, because I kind of think, the world shows you away, and I kind of think if he's there and available, the main thing is we can't get relegated. We can't get relegated again. That would be brutal for this football club. So I'm happy to allow him back, and I think now we can actually negotiate a better price for him, right?
But let me bring that round first of all, then to Dave. And what forget about January, forget about where we were. Tom was saying, bring him back in now. We need that striker. My argument and Jim's was, the problem we've had with strikers before is that they've always lived under that Vardy umbrella, and him going at the end of the season was possibly the best thing that could happen for any striker that's in the club. They haven't got that, like that Alex Ferguson in the dressing room 20 years after he'd retired syndrome. I wouldn't have him back. Would you, Dave? I mean, I still think he'd ask a lot of money. I still think he'd expect and ask a lot of money that we can't afford on a player, as Craig said earlier, that has shot his bolt.
I don't think I would until the end of the transfer window, and then see how we stand then. I don't think we can say never. I think what we need, if you look back at old players that have been on loan or come to Leicester, the same old feeling was it's a great family. We've lost that family now. We've, Schmeichel leaving was the start of it, the start of the fall. We need people back like that who, are family members in the club, if you like. And I can't see that coming. The nearest thing we could do is get somebody like Vardy in to do that. I wish he had been more of a leader, because I would definitely have kept him on some role. But, he ran his nuts off last year without success. But at least he ran them off. The couple of league games I've seen this year, there's one or two just strolling around. We
But you
can't
could
be-
argue Daka ran his nuts off. Tomori,
Yeah,
Very
Daka wasn't
wrong.
one of us. You know, Daka wasn't one I was talking about.
no,
Samare,
what I'm saying is running your nuts off doesn't mean he's going to get you 20 goals in a season.
no, it doesn't, but it shows you trying to make the effort, and that's what we've
So
been
did
lacking.
Akinbaye, but he was still a shit striker.
Well,
I mean, if you get it's like having a goalkeeper. It's like saying, well, Danny Ward made the effort, so we should have stuck with Danny Ward. That's what you're saying.
well, you know, am I the only person on the planet that thinks he was a decent keeper? Well, me and Brad, anyway.
No. Craig, look, I'm going to leave the last word with you. I'm sorry, there's no way I would have him back. I love what he did. I always think when a player goes back in those situations, it's like a player going back as a manager. It tarnishes your reputation.
Mm-hmm.
Gary Ainsworth at QPR, loved him as a player, the fans did. Wanted him sacked as the manager. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer at Manchester United. What will he be remembered as? The guy that got them the winning goal in the Champions League, or the manager that only got them to second in the Premier League? My God, how they take that now. And I still think he'd want a lot of money.
For me, there's a few things, but I'll end it on a point that you may think is the best way to end it. Would he score goals in this team? Are we playing to his potential? His strength. Sorry, because if that's the case, we should be playing to Daka's strengths, because he's got the same. He's not as good a finisher. But I would suggest that in the latter parts of last season, Vardy was as culpable as anyone else for the chances that he missed. And I don't think he gave it all in every game. What I would say in my final reasoning for saying no is that we've all castigated Harry Winks and said he doesn't want to be here. Jamie Vardy didn't want to be here. He left. He wanted to go. He wanted to go somewhere else, and he thinks he's good enough to play at the Premier League. So is he going to come back with a tail between his legs? I don't think he's good enough to play in the Premier League now.
I don't think he wanted to leave, Craig. I think he was forced out by John Rudkin.
What? Based on what?
Based on information.
Feel free to share.
I can't.
Well,
we'll never know whether you're just saying that.
You don't need to name names, Tom, but you can give the information.
There was very much apparently a disconnect between. You've had this in work situations, right? There's a popular member of a group at work, right, who is kind of causing a problem for management. We've all been there, right? But they actually encourage the group, make the group better, but they cost a lot of money.
You see, what can I say?
But of course, it completely takes away the voice of management. So the voice of management was more important to Leicester City than Jamie Vardy being against it. So look, look, if that's true or not, that is what I've heard from people I know. I'm not going to say who, but people.
No, I get that. I get that. But what I would say is, at what point do you allow the players to run the club?
And isn't that the problem, Craig? Isn't that why we got in this mess in the first place? Because the inmates are running the asylum. Yeah,
exactly. And a lot of that comes back to, and we've heard this from journalists who Chris has had on, in terms of the managers having too much power, in terms of getting players on longer contracts. And Brendan Rodgers got his players longer contracts on better money because he wanted to keep that group together. It's that thing of who is running the club. For me, it should be the club runs the club, and you buy players and a manager that fits the way that you want the club to be run. And as soon as individuals start having too much power, who can then leave at will, that's a dangerous thing. If you give a player the power, but the player can get transferred when somebody comes in with a big offer or his contract runs up, it's a dangerous situation. And I think we've felt this before, didn't we? That there was this cabal of players who were getting managers sacked.
Well, I was going to say that, Craig. And one of the main leaders of that pack, I believe, again, I don't know any, inside information, was Jamie Vardy. Although listen to Mark Albrighton and he will tell you that it didn't happen, despite him getting booted on.
Vardy loves the club. And I think he's as disappointed with the way it's gone as anybody, and that's probably where that comes from, that desire to do things differently. And if he sees players being brought in on high wages without giving any bloody effort, or giving everything they've got for the badge, then I can understand that he'd be annoyed. I'd be annoyed as well. And I think that's what all fans want. If you run your socks off for 90 minutes, we'll forgive most things, to be honest. And if you're a player who has based your whole career on that, and then you see people waltzing around, I can imagine you could get pissed off with it. Football clubs are really complex places with a lot of people on a lot of money and a lot of egos swilling around, and they must be horrific places to work and try and run a successful team. And that's why...
I'm going to take you up on what you said there. You said that, you end up with a team that runs its socks off and everybody will forgive you. No, I'm sorry. Up to a point. I'll take it up to a point, but they've got to have, at least, you've got to have like I said, you've got to have a goalkeeper that's actually going to make saves. You're going to have a midfielder that can actually make a through pass, and you need a striker that's going to go on and score. Now, as Fox said there, I think he left. It was his choice to leave. He never went into negotiations. It was all very much planned. There's no way that he announced it on whatever day it was, let's say on a Monday. And on Tuesday, we had 5 videos all of him walking around the pitch talking about it. It was all very much planned. And the things... he fell out with John Rudkin. We know he fell out with John Rudkin because he wasn't invited down on the pitch and all sorts like that. As I always say, when you fall out with somebody... We're all blaming John Rudkin because it's the Jamie Vardy. And, Jamie Vardy may have gone and said, I'll do another year, but I want 100,000. And, we can't pay you that. Well, I'm not stopping. There's always two sides to every argument. But whoever's in an argument with John Rudkin and Jamie Vardy, in the fans' eyes, there's only going to be one winner. And yes, there should be from 5 or 6 seasons ago, but not now. And how does he come back? Basically, what does that say to Daka and Ayew? Well, I'll tell you what, it kills Daka off anyway. And you can say, well, there's not much life in there. It's life, Jim, but not as we know it. But it would kill their confidence totally. It would block the likes of Edwards and what have you coming through from the U's. And the things he said, all right, whether you agree or not about having a shit season, it was a shit show in the last season and all that. How are the people at the club, not the fans, but how are the people at the club going to be taken with him? And I think there's a lot of players would be sat in that canteen, and he'd be the little boy at school that was bullied, that was always sat on a table on his own in the corner. I think he would be that. I don't think he's got any way back at all. And if we are relying on a 39-year-old to come in and score the goals, no. If we were talking about a 34-year-old from a few seasons ago, bat your hand off for him. But,
what about Kevin Phillips, who got us promoted with 40 years old?
Kevin Phillips, who scored 1 goal for us in the whole season.
Yeah, but he made a massive effort behind the scenes, Chris, as well, and lifted the team at the right point. Pearson brought in a character.
Striker, he was brought in to score goals, and he scored 1 goal. I don't give a fuck what they do behind the scenes. That's not what we paid them. We were paying them to.
Chris, we got promoted with that because Nigel Pearson saw a character in that player that could build something in the dressing room. What are you talking about? He got
to the Premier League, he dropped him.
Yeah, I know, because that was too much for him. But he made an effort and he played a part in getting us to the Premier League.
What's this? What?
Come on.
Dave, help me out here. What is all this with players are making an effort? Yes, you need to...
So ages, because you're old as well, like I am, mate. Come on.
Yes, but Phillips was old. But I expect, buying a player and paying him the wages to score 1 goal, whatever he does behind the scenes, that's extra. His job was a striker. Was it not, Dave? Back me up here. His job was a striker. And I saw him score that goal at Bournemouth. It was away at Bournemouth. I saw him score that goal, and he did an impression of a guy with a Zimmer frame, which basically sums him up. Fair play to him. I liked him, and I thought we did really well to get him, but I expected more of him. Dave, as a striker, it's surely the main job. Well, he makes a good cup of tea, so let's give him another year's contract. You score a fucking goal. That's what we're paying you for.
I think I said, correct me if I'm wrong,
I will.
We need some of the players from the days when we were a family club, which made people speak now on the whatever channels they have. bond get the place going together. We haven't got that. Now, I don't know whether Vardy's the right one or not. There are no other options. The rest, everybody's gone there from that era. And I can't see any of these kids. All they do is come out in Twitter or whatever it is, talking absolute nonsense at 21, 22 years old. So, it's not happening. If the manager can't do it, give him a year. If you can't bond them together and make a family club again and get us playing some football, then, what can you do? He's gone. But at the moment, he's played 2 league games. Won 1, lost 1. Everybody, we used to win 1-0 or whatever.
That sounds very good because that's a 50-50 win rate, but he's actually played 3 games and lost 2. No, I'm not saying I want Masrtic Cifuentes to be given a year. We can't keep sacking managers too soon. And Tom knows I'm not having a go with him. Tom knows what I'm like. My devil's
won the league under Enzo.
I'm going to leave the last comment with Craig, as I said about 5 minutes ago. Fox Fanatics, why we have literally been banging on about getting old players out of the club. And you are talking about bringing the 40-year-old players back. Christ's sake.
Nothing wrong with 40.
Craig, I wish I was 40 again. Craig, that's a fair point.
It's a fair point, but for me, it's about the ability of an individual to affect the football team. Regardless if he's 60 and he scores 20 goals, fine. Basically that's me. So, sign me up.
Do we not play Monga because he's 16, guys? Because we've got age of Steve Wren. Sorry, Craig, carry on.
Oh, you're right. It's irrelevant. An age of a player is irrelevant. To me, it's their ability and the character that they've got, whether they're 38. We've got a history of it. We brought in Martin Keown and Les Ferdinand. And
don't go back. Don't you dare.
That's what we've done.
Dare say the DW name. You say the DW name and you are out of this programme. That was one of the worst periods of our history with all those We were the Derby and Jones Football Club. It's where football players came to die.
Because managers resort to what they perceive to be proven players with the right character.
And players
they all get to that little curve of where your character will get you so far, and then it comes. Jordan Henderson. He's going to be amazing to see how Jordan Henderson gets on at Brentford back in the Premier League after being away, and he was on the decline. So that's going to show a perfect example of players who have got the right character but just can't do it anymore. You've got to get that blend, and that's what a manager's job is. With the rest of the recruitment team, they've got to look at the squad that they've got to work with, and how can I find the best solution, get the best chemistry out of the players? Because if they can't do it, if it was easy, we'd all be doing it. That's what they're paid for. The players are paid to do their job. The manager's paid to play and find a solution to the squad of players that he's got. And that's what makes a good manager and a bad manager.
On that note, for those of you of a certain age, Tom there was doing his audition to try and get a job on a coffee advert.
Yeah, I wasn't talking about someone in the chat who's starting to get a little bit low vibrational for me. And look, it's about opinions, guys. We said this. Just don't be a troll, for fuck's sake. Come on.
That is why we do these. And look,
Vardy should have left when we got promoted. That would have been his high. Forget the goals and the performances. That would have been his high. He should have gone then. We shouldn't have given him another contract.
We are finishing on Dave talking sense. I never thought that would happen. I'm going to end it, Dave. I'm going to end it because at 1 hour, I said this is the last question, and we are now at 1 hour 29 minutes.
I've got to get to the airport by 5 o'clock in the morning, so let's do it.
Brilliant, mate. I will have a safe journey. Thanks, guys, thank you very much. Dave, Craig, Tom. It is all about opinions.
Yeah.
And we say things on these channels that we don't necessarily believe, although I do believe Tom actually does think that Vardy should come back. But,
I ain't crying there, Fox Fanatics, mate, but you got to word it in a slightly better way, my friend. Come on.
Look, Fox Fanatics, I've been ignoring a lot of your comments because they haven't been particularly nice. It is all about put your point across. Don't just dig somebody for having an opinion. It's what it's all about. And let's say the other thing as well is if you go back long enough, we never had programs like this and YouTube channels and what have you where fans could, they went down. to the pub after the game, really, really angry, and a couple of pints later, they were fine. Thanks very much to everybody that was in the chat. Please like and subscribe. Thank you very much. Watching this on catch up, click the again, you can like and subscribe, add your comments below, listen on your favorite podcast platform. 101,000 downloads now. Unbelievable, guys. Thank you very, very much. And that was all Craig's idea as well. God, that hurts me to say, but thank you, Craig. Thanks, Wayne. Thanks, Tom. Thanks, Craig. Thanks, Dave. We'll be back on Thursday. It's the prediction and the preview show if I can get a Charlton fan. Take care, everybody. Thanks so much for being here. Thanks to these three as well. See you soon. Good night.
Thanks for watching. These videos are tremendous. You better like them too, or I'll be back.
This podcast is proud to be part of the TalkSport Fan Network. TalkSport. Powered by fans.
That will conclude this evening's entertainment.